yourself. It helps when you unmute yourself. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Let me put some headphones on. That way I can actually hear myself. I don't know why I didn't have them on before. I have my fan going. I have the forge already going. So I don't know why I didn't have my headphones on. Anyway, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Hi, Corwin. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today on this lovely rainy Friday. I mean, it's rainy here anyway. So hopefully that's going to bring the temperature down because we are also under a heat advisory. So it was 91, feels like 100 without the forge outside, but now it's raining. So yay. Hopefully it'll cool down a little bit. Yesterday I was in the 80s because of another small rainstorm. So hopefully that happens again. We are supposed to be under a heat advisory until Tuesday. Sounds like here minus the rain. Yeah, I talked to my mom yesterday. She lives up north in the Quad Cities, and she said it was like 96 there yesterday, something like that. It was super, super hot. So hopefully this rain kind of cools it down a little bit. We won't have nearly as much heat and, dehydration worry. So yeah, today we are going to be working or continuing to work on our axe strip. We've got about a 1/4 inch to reduce at the top, at the culmination of the drift. And then I also want to make sure that I smooth up everything and make sure that all of the corners are nice and crisp. And then we're going to start turning it into that teardrop shape. So what I want to do is, what I'm expecting to do is to do a lot of grinding to make things nice and smooth, get rid of all of the lumps and bumps, and from there we'll have a beautiful drift that we can use on Monday. So if I don't finish it today, I'm just going to take it to the grinder. We're close enough now that we can get a really nice smooth drift regardless. So I think what we're going to do is, yeah, just keep on keeping on. It says Post Malone and Jelly Roll are having an outdoor concert here. Hopefully people don't melt. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, hopefully they don't melt. I mean, we've already had a bunch of problems this summer with people and doing outdoor events and having a lot of medical issues. So hopefully, they are staying hydrated and that there's like cooling tents and places for them to get help if they need it. So yeah. Hey Mahalo, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. So I have already had the forge going for about 15 minutes. Well, more like 20 minutes now because I started it up at 15 minutes before the stream. So hopefully within the next 15 to 20 minutes we'll be able to start working. Our first couple heats are going to be here on the face of the anvil. And that is because I want to straighten things up. We were starting to get there on the end of Wednesday's stream, and so I think we're going to finish that up today. So yeah, I got a lot of work to do over the weekend because right now we have a very square drift, and we need to turn that into a teardrop. So it's a lot of grinding so far. Let's see if we can't forge some of that down so that I don't have to grind as much. I hate grinding things. So we have an ad that is going to be ending here shortly. And hopefully after that we can get started pretty fast. We've got a really bright orange. Evening sandwich, hello, hello. All right, welcome back. Hello, hello, welcome in everybody. Thank you all for joining me today. So we are already at a nice mid-orange. So we need to allow that steel to soak up that heat, get a little bit higher and into that core. We've got quite a bit of fish slipping on both ends of the piece, and that I've noticed when I took a look at it before I put it back in the steel today. So I'm really hoping that we don't add to that. So I'm gonna wait a while so that we can get some nice heat penetration into that core. Day 9 of 90 degree plus temps. I'm over it, right? See, like I said, I've been lucking out because we've gotten a lot of afternoon rainstorms, which is really odd for this area. We normally get like an all-day rain where it's like all day is cloudy, rainy, and stormy looking, or all day is really nice and like bright, shiny. And so lately we've just been getting these like afternoon stormy showers. And I've not seen that in this area. Most of the time I see that and it's like down south in like Florida and stuff, like on the coast. So I don't know what's going on, but it is reducing the temperature. So, that's good. Oh, and the sign is signing again. Yes, I actually fixed that last weekend. So this is day 3 of the sign signing again. So yeah, I remembered for once in my life. It's one of those things, right? I was like just procrastinating. I procrastinated for like 3 months or so, and it took like 5 minutes to do. So, wasn't really worth the amount of like mental load that I was carrying for it, but it's there now. Fingers crossed I don't break it again. I'm not a fast realizer. Well, Monday, I don't think that you were here. And then Wednesday, I think you were in and out pretty fast. So, and I mean, that's fair, It's up in the, like, upper right-hand corner. So, It's not in the middle. You were probably paying more attention to, the stuff in the center of the screen. It's possible. So, yeah. Let's see. Today is Friday. Like I said, I've got a pretty good weekend of grinding steel, making sure that I can shape our drift to the point where we can actually use it. However, I don't think we're going to start using it till probably somewhere in Wednesday of next week. Because I'm going to be taking another large chunk of that round axle and we're going to have to turn that into an axe blank before we drill our holes and start using that drift. So I got a little bit more time than just this weekend in case, like, for whatever reason, I just can't manage all of it this weekend. I got a little, I got till Wednesday, I think. But like I said, today we are going to be spending a lot of our time shaping it, trying to get rid of some of that time that I'm going to spend at the grinder. So for our first heat or two, we're going to start working on, or I guess we are going to be working on the handle end, and then we're going to flip it around and start working on the drift section. I want to take out all of the ripples from the half round dies, and then we're going to put some more back in later on. Like I said, I got a little bit more to take off, so I want to make sure that we get as close to a forge finish as possible. Let's see. I think we should probably wait a little bit longer for that heat to soak in through the steel, and then we'll get started. But, we're doing pretty good. We're at the 11-minute mark, so not bad. So, Corwin sent me a video last night, I think it was, and I watched it this morning, and it was a video of a guy making an axe drift. And so when I watched it, I was very pleasantly reassured that I'm actually doing this relatively similar to that guy. So, you know, and he got a successful axe drift out of it, so, you know, I probably will too, likely. He did also spend some time shaping on the grinder, and so I think that's probably how we're going to do it. Like I said, you know, we're going to try and hammer a little bit, but I think a lot of it's going to be done on the grinder. So, what else do I have going on? Oh, yeah. I actually already have next week's video fully edited and ready to post. So it's just kind of sitting there waiting for Wednesday so that you guys can watch it. I'll probably watch it one more time before I allow it to release, just to make sure that I haven't made any grave errors, or like this, also like the sound is on it. Occasionally what will happen is I will be editing something and the sound gets a little bit wonky sometimes. I accidentally like click in the wrong spot and it'll mess up. So I try to give it a little bit of time to kind of soak, and then I watch it through before I release it. So I have another video that we're going to be starting to edit for the week after next, a week from Wednesday, and I'm super excited about that one as well. I think I actually get to, this time I get to edit the video footage of the bloom steel process. So I'm super excited about that one. That was so much fun. I actually got to help make the bloom steel. It was such a great experience. And yeah, the only thing I kind of wish, you know, my only like, you know, partial regret is that I did not get the opportunity to play with the bloom steel once it was finished. We broke it up into, or I guess they broke it up into several different pieces, and the volunteers that helped load up all of the charges, which is what they call adding the coke and the steel, they were able to go and forge it into projects that went into the auction. So unfortunately, I was not able to get a chunk. So it would have been cool, you know, playing with like fresh bloom steel. But you know what? Sometime in the future, you know, a bucket list item, maybe I'll be able to, you know, take a piece of bloom steel and play with it. So we'll see. Making bloom steel itself, I think that is kind of a little bit outside of my purview. Because of all of the amount of labor and laborers that it entails, but you know, it was a blast to try. So, let's take a look at the steel. We're kind of an orange. I think we'll be all right. We can do a first heat. Okay, let me move the fan real fast, just so that it's not blowing directly onto the steel, and I'll move it again when we move over to the press. And then let's start. At least I hope we're starting. I think we can start. Okay, let's do this. All right, we're going to heat that back up again, and we're going to try and do a little bit more work on this handle area. You can kind of see the fish lipping that we've started there. That's because I just wasn't able to get it all the way penetrated, the heat that is, at first. So we did grow a little bit of fish lipping. I'll have to address that before we use it, but I think it'll be all right. Do I have a fresh axe handle to compare it to? I do not, actually. But I can definitely pick one up this weekend. So while I'm grinding it, I will be able to compare. But yeah, that is a great idea. That is definitely a great idea. So when I started the stream, it was raining, and it was all cloudy and stormy looking. And I look outside the window and the garage door. It is bright and sunny already, and I can definitely feel the humidity. So hopefully it doesn't get super hot and humid. Yeah, like I said, I was hoping that it would cool it down. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Obviously, the wood handle is oversized, so it can be shaved to fit. Yes, definitely. And I did have to shave that handle quite a bit. I think I actually ended up taking about an inch off of it to get it to fit in the way it was. So it's definitely not pleasant. So I'll probably pick up a new handle for our next axe, the one that we're going to start on Monday, and we can hopefully compare the drift to that. Let's see. I don't know. I had a thought and then I lost it. I hate when that happens, So I was looking at the video that Corwin shared, and they had a little bit of a nub of a handle, just like we do with our axe drift. And they actually had a pair of tongs that were perfectly sized to fit that handle. So I was thinking that maybe sometime in the future we could also make a set of tongs, like a large set of tongs that we'll be able to, size to like some larger stock. I know we have these tongs and we have these tongs that are sized for somewhat larger stock, but it would be nice to have like some rounded tongs, like some industrial sized ones. I also was looking at the Alex Steele video for this week. He made some industrial tongs, and I would love to make some industrial tongs. So I think that's a project for another month. Not this month, because I really want to finish that axe before the end. But yeah, I think it would be really cool to have some larger tongs. Yeah, those are massive. They were, but they were sized for a 4-inch piece of steel, like a 4-inch block of steel. That it's just incredible. And then when he was finished making them, he's like, I'm going to make some for 7-inch square. I'm like, goodness gracious. Are you going to be able to lift the steel? I wouldn't want to grip a chonker like that 2 feet away, right? I kind of feel like at that point, you almost need like a crane. Like the industrial forging processes, they have cranes that like are attached to the ceiling, and then you can kind of slide it around. And so I feel like even the 4-inch cube that he had, I definitely would have wanted a crane. So, I've got my engine hoist over there, and the butler did tell me at one point that if I needed to set that up in front of the press, that we could totally make that happen. It was crazy how much work that 200-pound hammer could do. Yeah, that was incredible. I'm really interested to see the 2 new hammers that he's also got, like under those tarps that he wants to restore. But you know, we'll get there. He'll get there, and we'll get to watch it. And one of these days, I'll get myself a hammer, and maybe we'll have to restore it, maybe not. But it'll be a fun time. Okay, let's do another heat. I think our next project after this, though, I think we're actually going to do a project that Corwin suggested us to do. I think the next one that we're going to do is, I think we're going to play with some railroad spikes. He sent us a couple, and I haven't played with them yet, so I think that's what we're going to do for our next project. Oh, come on, let's grab a hold of this properly. Alright, I think I'm just going to end up having to play with the press a little bit earlier than I wanted to originally. But I think it'll be alright. Oh, look, we're doing it. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over and get rid of all of these like lumps and bumps from that press. So I think I need this set of tongs to hang on to this, and probably also the hold down. So we'll play a little bit with that next. But yeah, I think we're going to play with some railroad spikes and see what we can come up with. Corwin suggested a stake flipper. We might do one of those. We've done one before, but you know, the railroad spike handle is always a crowd pleaser, so we might try that. And then I think he sent me like 2 or 3 of them. So I'll probably take a look at how many specifically that I can come up with, because I may actually have a few more from a scrap pile that I received a while before that. So I want to see how many different projects that we can do with a railroad spike. And then we'll probably do a little bit of more complicated stuff after that. Something that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm thinking the pass-through pliers for a challenge project after our railroad spike deep dive. Or maybe it's not necessarily a deep dive, but it's a series of railroad spike projects. I'd like to complete each of these railroad spike projects in one stream. So, you know, it'll be a couple of different streams with all doing railroad spike projects. Railroad spike, stake flipper, railroad spike bottle opener, you know, a couple things here and there. I'll come up with a couple of different like pieces to do with them. I have actually seen there's a guy, or like there's a video that has been floating around, and I think a few guys have been doing copycat work, not necessarily copycat work, but also you know, trying their hand at it, but making a Friedrich's Cross dagger out of a railroad spike. So what they'll do is they'll split the railroad spike and use the head of the spike as a hand guard, and then they will use the end of it as the pointy bit in the handle. So I think that would be interesting. Could you make tweezer-style tongs from a railroad spike? I mean, maybe? I think I'd have to take a look at some different designs and see what I could do with the railroad spike. See if I could do it, or like, you know, do that type of process. Yeah, I think I'd have to look at the designs. I'm not as familiar with how exactly those are put together. And I mean, it sounds simple enough, but sometimes like simple looking designs can be rather complicated. So I'll take a look and see what we can, see if we can come up with something. A little bit more heat into that steel. Like I said, or like you watched, we turn that around. So I need to make sure that I've got plenty of heat through into that core. I was thinking it was just split in half and elongated, but I don't know. I'm not a snit. I mean, it could. It could. I mean, that's kind of like what we did for the railroad, or not the railroad, the barbecue tongs that we made. You know, we had a longer piece of steel. We like gave ourselves a hinge by smashing in the center, and then we elongated that into some tongs. So I don't know. We might be able to do that. Usually, though, when you want to make like a spring, you actually need to thin that out quite a bit. Hey Yankee, welcome to the stream. Hello Raiders, thank you so much for that raid. Welcome, welcome. So, hello. So we are in the middle, or towards the end, of creating a axe eye drift. Because Monday we're gonna try our hand at doing another axe. I'm super excited about that because, you know, we've done 2 axes before and I didn't do an amazing job with them. So we're trying our hand again. You know, 3rd time's the charm, and hopefully we can make that happen. So, yeah, super exciting. We're making an axe drift. Our original axe drift was really, really small. We made one last year. And I didn't know that a standard US axe drift or axe handle, like that you buy at the store, was around 2.5 inches long and 3/4 inch wide. So I made my axe drift about 1.5 inches long. So I think this is gonna work a lot better. Yeah, but 3rd time counting from where? I mean, you know, this was my 1st attempt. It did not work out at all. This was my 2nd attempt. It worked all right, but it wasn't the greatest, right? The fit and finish was kind of meh. So this time, you know, 3rd time. Hopefully we can get that fit and finish in there and we'll get a functional and working axe. So yes, Raiders, welcome in. Welcome in. If you've got any questions, any comments, you know, let me know. And welcome in. All right. We're starting to get plenty of heat in there. And so we've got a decent shape for our drift, but we're kind of trying to smooth it out just a little bit. Definitely want to make sure that we are as close to finish as possible, because whatever I don't finish today, I gotta grind off later this weekend. Oh, come on, you know that you can. Okay, let's do this. Ah! You know what? You know what? That's why I have this guy. My hold down. Goodness gracious, I'm not doing so hot right now. We'll get it. We'll get it. Maybe if I hold it this direction, it'll work a little better. Little bit. Nope. All right, let's get some more heat on that. And maybe we'll just head over to the press. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Let's heat that up again. There we go. In the forge. It's got some bounce. It does have some bounce. It's got a lot of bounce right now. Oh, come on. You know, I gotta drop forge everything. Isn't that the hold down meant for holding down flat pieces? It kind of is. It's not working the best, but you know, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, we do have an ad starting in about 2.5 minutes, and that should give us plenty of time to get that end up to heat again so that we can try another forge or another heat. I don't know. I have trouble figuring out what I should call it. You know, a heat and getting more heat. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, I think that it was a little bit on, I think I may have pulled it a little bit too cold, and so that's probably why I was getting quite a bit of bounce there. So yeah, that's my fault. I need to let my steel heat all the way up, and you know, I get really impatient. I'm a very impatient person. But yeah, so right now what we're trying to do is we've got a little bit of a skew on our drift. And then there's also a bunch of bumps from the half round dies on the press. So I want to take out those bumps, but I also want to bring the corners back down to right angles. That way, it's a little bit easier for me to get that teardrop shape that we so desperately need for the drift. It's going to be a lot easier to start that way, or you know, start with right angles, than to kind of fix the steel with the grinder. So, how hot is it over on the East Coast? Is it super duper hot? I guess Mahalo lives in the Midwest here. You know, I also live in the Midwest. It's pretty hot around here. But yeah. I got momentarily confused. For some reason, I thought Mahalo lived out on the East Coast for like half a second. I don't know. All right. It was 40.8 Celsius here early. Oh, that is awful. Welcome to the stream, Lucy. I'm doing my math. 40.8 Celsius to Fahrenheit. 105. Goodness gracious. 105 degrees? Ugh. That's gross. It's not supposed to be that hot. Ever. Anywhere. I mean, it does get that hot here, but you know. Welcome back. Yeah, 108. icky. All right, let's do another heat. Or at least see if we can't do another heat. It might be a little bouncy still, but we'll see. Yep, we're bouncy. Again and again and again. All right. So we're somewhat back to right angles. We are going to spend a little bit of more time here on the face of the anvil, and then we'll go over to the press. We're getting there. We're moving the steel. I can definitely see it's moving. And then we'll use the metal squisher. That'll probably work for me a little bit easier. It'll also work a little easier if I turn up the heat and let it soak more. So, I was taking a look at our YouTube numbers today, and I am excited to report that we are actually gaining time viewed, and that is all thanks to you guys. You guys watching on YouTube and you guys on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support my content. So YouTube's monetization, you have to hit a certain duration of watched time, right? And it's in 365 days. So because we have been posting YouTube videos for a year and a half, each day that we progress, we are actually losing last year's time. So I'm happy to report that we are once again starting to gain time. I am so happy. Thank you guys so much for that. And I'm floored. We're getting there. We're starting to grow, and I'm super excited about that. So thank you guys so much. The metal squisher, that is a technical term, everybody. It definitely is. It's definitely a technical term. So yeah, we're growing, and I'm super excited. So thank you guys. Thank you for your continued support. But yeah, I don't know. So I talked a little bit about this weekend, or what I'm doing this weekend. What are you guys doing this weekend? Anything fun? Are we making some hay, or doing some forging? Doing some bike riding? Anything fun? I think, like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot of grinding to get our drift ready, and then I'm also going to be doing a little bit of adulting. Unfortunately, this weekend we've got several errands that we got to run. We're starting to run low on like Gatorade and toilet paper and groceries. So it's groceries we're making. Groceries and grinding stock. It's gonna be too hot to do anything at all. Ugh. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. Well, I guess maybe you'll be able to catch up on your book reading or, you know, your favorite television show or your Twitch streaming, you know, your favorite streamers. So, I mean, sometimes that can be fun too. Sometimes that can be fun too. Let me see if I have. I don't think I do actually. I think I'm stuck with these guys. Gotta pause the haymaking. It might rain Sunday morning. Ooh. And because I'm retired, I do not need to do anything, so I won't. That makes sense. But yeah, haymaking, you gotta pause it because it's raining. I'll bet you, is it because if you make hay while it's raining, it'll start rotting? Is that why? That's how in my head, I would imagine. That's what I would imagine. All right, let's do another heat. And this will be our last heat over on the face of the anvil, and then we'll go back to our press. Got a lot more heat in this piece this time. I think it's because it's twisted a little bit. That's why we're jumping a little. There we go. Put that back in the heat, and then we'll go down, or we'll go back to the press. I think what I want to do, though, is I want to start from that side. So we'll put this in this direction, and then we'll start working with the press. Is it Twisted Sister? I mean, I don't know if it has a sister. I suppose it technically has two other siblings. You know, we've made our first axe drift and our first hammer drift. So, you know, this is the kid's sister, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know that steel has a. So yeah. So I'm gonna grab these guys. I think we're doing all right here. Let me see about cleaning off some of the scale on this, and we will also change the angle of the camera so you guys can see the press. I'll put this here. Ooh, that fan feels super good. I need to move the direction of the fan though, so that it's not blowing on the steel while I'm at the press. So we do kind of have to change up our camera angle, or our fan angle and our camera angle a little. I always forget you have no idea about music. We're not gonna take it. Oh, we're not gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. Is that the reference? I mean, I know Twisted Sister is a band. I don't have a lot of like rock historical or musical context. I know about like Buddy Holiday and Elvis and like, you know, through into like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and like pop music. It's like some of it, much more than I'd have a background in rock music. The Butler says, I have a very narrow taste in music where I only listen to stuff that was made after I was born and only in certain genres. I don't necessarily know that that is true, but maybe, I don't know. Buddy Holly, yes, I do mean Buddy Holly. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, you know, I guess I don't have a lot of musical historical knowledge, I guess, you know, I don't know. All right, let's do another heat. Something I am sort of decent at, right? I may not be the best, but I have a little bit more knowledge on. All right. Did my camera crash? I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit slow. Oh, we are dropping a few frames here and there. Apologies for the instability. I think you guys can probably hear me, but it might be doing a lot of frame dropping right now. I keep seeing my monitoring freezing up on it. So I'm sorry. You moved, so no. Okay. I don't know. Like I said, I keep seeing myself freeze, so maybe it's just frame dropping. It's probably just a delay. I think I'm getting better, I think. But I dropped a few frames. There was a bit of a stutter, but you're still there. Cool. Not froze, but yeah, there. Okay. Yeah, like I said, there was I noticed that like I was stuck on the press after I switched cameras, so it was a little bit awkward looking, but we're all right now. So, yeah. So yesterday, we've been doing a lot of cooking at home recently, and when I say cooking at home, I'm not the one cooking. The butler is, because you know I don't know how to cut down like recipes. Like I'm able to do restaurants quantities of food. I was never able to like cut down the recipes, so I don't know a lot of like home cooking. Anyway, so the butler has been doing a lot of cooking recently, and yesterday we decided we were gonna make spaghetti, but we realized that we didn't have any spaghetti noodles, and so we did have a box of elbows, like the little macaroni elbows. So we decided that that's what we were going to use for our spaghetti. And normally the butler's really good about estimating how much spaghetti that the two of us are going to eat. And, you know, so we're not wasting the spaghetti noodles. And, you know, it's not easy estimating the amount of spaghetti noodles that you need for your food. And I'm like, I don't know how many elbow noodles is going to equate the amount of spaghetti. So the butler just dumps the whole box in. And it was a lot of elbows. It filled the pot, and there was no room for the sauce. Making spaghetti noodles is not that hard. I suppose if you know what you're doing, it's not that hard, but you know. Anyway, yeah, it was like there were super lots of elbows. I think we only ate like a third of the elbows after, you know, we put all the sauce and all of the other ingredients that we normally put into the spaghetti. So we only ended up eating about a third of it. So we've got a lot of spaghetti for leftovers. So, or I guess not, it's elbows. It looked like goulash to me, but it tasted really good, you know. It just tasted like because I mean, the noodles, they don't taste that much different, you know. So yeah, we've got lots of leftover pasta. But it was just funny because we're like, how many noodles equates our normal spaghetti, and then instead of like actually guesstimating or, you know, looking it up or asking, dumps the whole box. Send some up here. You can add cheese sauce and eat again. Yes. Yeah, we will definitely, because you the twice baked pasta, right? You put it in like a baking or pan, like a cookie, or not a cookie sheet, but like a cake pan or whatever, and you can put shredded mozzarella on it, cook it, bake it in the oven, and it's absolutely amazing. So that's probably what we'll do for at least one of our meals like this weekend. And so I'm actually looking forward to it because it's been a while since we've had twice baked pasta, you know, because it's like you want to eat really quickly when you start cooking, and so you don't want to make the pasta and then bake it or whatever. It takes a lot of effort, you know. Let's do another heat. But yeah, lots and lots of pasta. Anybody out there got any good pasta measuring tips? I mean, I could definitely use some, advice on that, I guess. maybe use like, a quarter of the box, a third of the box maybe. I like that, but I also add a roux. That's an interesting idea. I don't think I would have thought to add a roux. I mean, normally we add extra sauce, like the pasta sauce, because, after the second time you eat the pasta, sometimes the sauce dries out a little bit, so you got to add a little bit more to make it nice and saucy and, more pasta. I don't know. Runny? Not really, but it's a little bit more cakey unless you add more sauce. So I would not have thought of adding a roux, changing the flavor of it more than I would imagine. Not me. I get it to boil over every time. I mean, it's hard, as far as like water boiling, if you add salt in, it doesn't boil as quickly. So if you add some salt to the pasta water, you get a little bit more salty flavor within the pasta itself, and it tastes pretty darn good. And it doesn't boil over as often. So that's pretty good. Pasta measuring, use a proper scale, a metric scale. Normally you just weigh it. I mean, I suppose. I did back when I was at the restaurant, but we don't have a scale. I mean, we don't have a scale because we got rid of our human scale too. Like, the one that we stand on to take our weight. We don't have one of those either. No, it boils quicker. Does it? Measuring in the kitchen? How dare? You measure with your heart. Unless you're at a restaurant where you measure with your wallet, right? All right, so I've never actually done it myself. I guess that's what the butler told me, because at the restaurant we just used the temperature, the burner to make sure that it didn't boil over. So I don't know if I'm wrong. Then because like the butler said that it lowered the boiling point. So I don't know. Or I mean, maybe raised it. I guess I'm just making stuff up today. Americans have that weird habit of measuring ingredients by volume, cups and stuff. Over here, recipes go by weight. Without a scale, you cannot cook or bake by recipe. Is the butler a chef? The butler is not a chef, but the butler does watch cooking shows, and also there is a cooking show that gets produced at the TV station that they work at. So they are oftentimes experimenting, what we call garbage cooking, where you go through the cupboards and the fridge and you kind of look to see what you've got, and then you kind of throw it all together into one dish. And so yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like vibe cooking a little bit. All this talk is making me hungry. Time to hit the fridge. Right? I'm actually pretty full. I ate a lot of pasta last night, and then I ate a TV dinner just to give myself a little bit of break before doing more pasta later. But I feel pretty full. Sounds like the show Chopped or Waste Not, Want Not. Yes. So yeah, it's like if we find that we've got some bacon that is going to go bad, we'll come up with some recipe that has something to do with bacon. So oftentimes we have like a Chinese Mexican fusion kind of cooking or the butler does. So we oftentimes will do like stir fry fajitas, where it's like, you know, steak and vegetables, like fajita vegetables. But it also is kind of like a pepper beef kind of thing. So it's kind of like, depending on the spices, it goes more Tex-Mex or it goes more Oriental style, or, you know, Americanized Chinese style. And so we'll just add bacon to that, or like whatever, you know, we happen to have. So yeah. Waffles or cake have something to do with bacon. That's true. Chopped is basically forged in fire for the kitchen. Oh, yes. I've heard of that, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, like, the cooking show that we were watching was... Which one was it? I think it was the Great Bake Off, or something like the Great Bake Off. And then also Shokugeki no Soma. I know it's an anime, but some of the cooking techniques in there are really, like, they actually exist. So we've stolen a few recipes off of that show, which is, it's called Cooking Wars in English. But yeah. And then there is an award-winning chef that has like a handful of restaurants in the area and is pretty decent friends with the butler and some of his co-workers. So they talk about cooking too. Great British Baking Show. I mean, yeah, that's more baking than cooking, or, you know, cooking, but like, you know, I think it's more of it's like that. I don't know. So, I don't know. But yeah, we kind of do. We watch a few cooking shows here and there. Like it's, but yeah. So we have an ad starting in about a minute and a half, and then we will continue working on our piece. I think I'm gonna wait for the ad so that we can soak the steel into that center core. So yeah, we like to watch, or we like to do a little bit of baking. We've been making bread, and we're trying to get to work through some of the butler's grandparents' like cookie recipes and stuff too. I'm running low on water, so I'm gonna grab the other one. I'm out of Gatorade too, so there's no Gatorade o'clock today. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna fill up our water after I finish my second one that I prepared. So I will be right back. All right, so we've got the ad break is gonna end here shortly. We have plenty of heat. Should be able to make some progress. I think after this heat, we're gonna flip it around and work on the tapered end a little bit further. That was a very large Winnebago. All right. Okay, so let me take a look at this. Alrighty. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's do our next heat. Oh, I was gonna flip it around, wasn't I? Oh. There we go. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of tapering on that, the long section of our steel, and then we'll flip it over again. We've got a little bit more, well, we've got quite a bit of material towards the handle end, and I do want to bring that down quite a bit, but I also want to make sure that we are organically moving the steel so that we don't end up with weird lumps and bumps in places. So, let's see. Yeah. I think tonight we're probably going with pizza for dinner. We usually do pizza on Fridays. So we kind of rotate through a different pizza restaurant every week. Last week we did Little Caesars, which is kind of cheap pizza. The week before that, we went to the really nice sit-down restaurant. It's called Dewey's. It's kind of a local place, but they do artisanal pizza in like a stone bake oven, and it's really good. It's got a nice atmosphere, and so, you know, it's kind of like a sit-down restaurant, but for pizza. And then we were planning last Friday to go to the park to eat our pizza, you know, just to have some fun and, you know, be outdoors and get fresh air and stuff. But it started raining, and, or like when I came out of the pizza restaurant, and it was raining all over the pizza box. And yeah, I was very soggy. So was the pizza. It was not fun. I'm hoping that it doesn't rain this weekend, so we can actually do like an outdoor pizza, like picnic or whatever. We just got a screen door for the van, and I'm really interested to see how the cat will react to it. So I really want to take him out to a park so he can kind of look at, because he was really obsessed with the back door. We have a sliding door that has a screen. And every morning he begs for us to open the door so that he can watch the birds and smell all of the outdoor air and watch the squirrels and things. So we thought maybe he'd like a screen door for the van. He's not a big fan of the van right now, or at least while it's moving. But he enjoys being in the van, and like when we're in a parking spot, like when we're stopped at like a campsite or at a park or whatever, he really enjoys opening the door and just like laying on the ground in front of it, watching the birds and the animals and the people. And so we usually keep him on a leash with a harness on so that he can't bolt or get away from us. But we're hoping that we won't have to keep a hold of the leash when we have the screen up. So it's like a magnetic screen or net or whatever, and it's got a zipper so you can get in and out of it. And I don't think that it will prevent him from bolting if he really wanted to, but I think that it would slow him down because it'd be like he'd get tangled in the net, so we'd have a chance to catch him before he got too far. So I really would love to take him out on a picnic. Like I said, he's not a fan of moving in the van, but once we get where we're going, he really likes that. And then he seems relatively content when we're on our way home. So I don't know. I don't know what that is. If it's like he just doesn't, or he doesn't like going out, but once it becomes apparent it will be worth it, he's okay with moving. I don't know. I know it's really weird to like be traveling with a cat. It's usually a dog thing, but our cat is very dog-like. And you can train a cat. You can train a cat. Making some good progress. So I was talking to the butler the other day, I think it was yesterday, about the press, right? So the way I built my press is this is just a shop press for taking ball bearings out of wheels and getting rid of, or I guess out of the ball bearings out of the wheels, I think. And also getting rid of the rubber, getting the tires off of your rims. And so the problem with it is that the top frame that the piston presses down on, it's not it's not really on a track, so sometimes it'll go a little bit off kilter. And so is the bottom, right? So oftentimes when I press down, if I don't get it right lined up, then it starts kind of curving on the draw out. So I have to kind of rotate the piece of steel every time so that I can keep it nice and straight. Bearings out of wheel hubs. That, yes, that. Thank you, Mahalo. I knew it had something to do with ball bearings and wheels. But yeah, this is not the best design that I've ever come across. I honestly think that the designs that are, the base is a wood splitter, are much better because you got a lot more control and the pistons are on a much better tracking. So you're going to end up with a much smoother and much more lined up die. Unfortunately, this one is a little bit wonky, but I make it work. So if you're looking at the press, this press, and thinking about getting your own or making your own, this is, I would recommend the log splitter presses more than this design. We're getting some good progress, but it's starting to kind of curve sideways. So I gotta keep flipping it to make sure that I keep it straight. It was a good beginner press, and it was like the only design that was around back when I built it. Because I built it probably, when did I build it? I think I built it in like 2010. It was before Forged in Fire made blacksmithing a lot more popular. Forged in Fire has increased the popularity of blacksmithing so much that it's made it viable for people to create companies and like manufacture blacksmithing equipment like coal iron. It would not have been possible before Forged in Fire and Alex Steel to get coal iron up and running, and some of the other manufacturers, like there was no way that you were going to be able to buy a forge on Amazon. So it's done quite a bit of good for the hobby, or the craft. But yeah, if I had the option to go back in time and switch my design from this press to a log splitter press, I would definitely do it in a heartbeat. All right. Getting rid of some of the scale that's on here. And then we're also going to take a look at the measurements that we've got. So far. That's 1.5. And that is 2.25. And we are a little bit over. And what are we at? Give me one second. What am I looking at? So that is 5/8 in width there. And we're at 1 inch at that top. So we're getting there. Let's do a little bit more and we'll be good. And yeah, you are totally right, Corwin. I only have to drift it, so it's more than or bigger than this one, or so that this is the same width as the widest section here. So we're there. We just need to thin that out a little bit on that side, I think, because that's a little bit wider than this one. So it's like a continuance from the previous one. Actually, I think I want to plug it that direction. Oh, okay, cool. We're there. But yes, I do have my previous drift, and it actually is really close, and I was aiming for that. Because I watched your video, and that's one of the things that he said. If you are going to make a series of axe drifts, you only have to taper down to the most extreme of the previous one. Whoops. I dropped my... So we're not too far off. Like I said, I think I need to work a little bit further on the handle end, just a little bit, and then we'll be able to shape it. We'll be able to shape it a little. Let's see. Do I have any better tongs? I keep looking to see if I have any better tongs, and I don't really. So I don't think these are going to be good either. These are not comfortable tongs. I don't know. I think I'm just stuck for the moment. But yeah, I think we're doing all right. I think we're at a point where I can definitely just grind it all down at this point. You know, I don't need to go to taper too much. It's mostly shaping at this point, I think. Just that top needs a little bit more than I want to grind off. So I got to taper that just a hair more. But overall, I think we're getting where we need to be. You know, I also have an hour of time to fill, you know? But yeah, let's see. I haven't really done much over the past couple of days. I mean, I finished our video for next week, but I already talked about that. You know, I think I've been playing video games a lot more. I I was watching. Do you guys play Bethesda games? I play Elder Scrolls Online, and so the big Microsoft layoff happened, and so I've been monitoring the news on that to see what they're gonna do for the Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls games. And so they released Bethesda, the big conglomerate released a statement. So it was very PR oriented, talking about how they're still going to work on the games that they were already working on and stuff. So it didn't really say anything. But yeah, I play a lot of games. But the main one that I play right now is Elder Scrolls Online. So we were pretty worried about it for a while because they laid off about half of their studio. They laid off 213 people, which, you know, that's devastating for those people. But we weren't sure how many were left, and it seems like they're about halfway. You know, they have about half of their studio left, so I think they have enough people to continue the game. But it's still kind of scary because a lot of their upper management has been fired. So I don't know. We'll see. I've kind of been watching it and wondering what's going to happen with all of the games. There's been a lot of cancellations recently on video games. But that's my other hobby, you know. I do the blacksmithing thing, and I mean, I turn that into my job. So, you know, the other one I do is video games. So I've thought about turning that into a job too, but I don't think I have enough in me to turn that into a job too. So on Wednesday, we raided off to Miramac Mudco, and we've been we've been raiding off with them quite a bit. They've been doing a restaurant build out. It's really interesting watching them throw and trim and get their pots ready and their plates and things ready for firing. And so they asked to do an art trade. I don't really know because like they asked for a hammer, but I've only ever made one. So I don't know how I would like necessarily price for an art trade. I want, if I'm gonna do it, I want to make sure that the hammer is like as good as I possibly can. So I feel like I would need a couple hammers to practice. So I don't know. We'll kind of figure out if I think we can do that. I know I can definitely go to Quad State and practice hammer making with some professionals. That might help us. So maybe we'll look at it again after we hit Quad State in September. So, because you know, I don't want to come up with like, you know, an ugly hammer. You know, I want my hammer to look pretty. I want it to be worth the trade. So I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit of a imposter syndrome about it. You need hammers. If you had a hammer, you'd hammer in the morning, you'd hammer in the evening, hammer all over this land. Yep. I thought it was hammer at dinner time, or I guess it was like something like that. I don't know. I don't think I know the lyrics to that song. Like the Norse dude said, hammer! Yes. So, I don't know. I think I'll have to make a few hammers before I feel confident enough to do it. Bagel bites. Bagel in the morning, bagel in the evening, bagel it's supper time. I don't know. Yes, that's where I remember that song from. Is like the bagel bites commercials as opposed to the what it is referencing. All right, we've got about a minute and a half until our next ad. After that ad is done, we will do our next heat. From there, I will probably do another heat or two on the handle end of the drift, and then I'll probably start shaping it a little bit. We'll probably take the dies and shift them 90 degrees so that we can get a so that we can start kind of pinching them from the side and getting that width that we need. Or what am I trying to say? We gotta pinch it down. Although it's probably gonna be better if I don't know, if I grind it. I want to see what we can do though. I want to see what we can do. That's it. That's it. Like Peter, Paula, and Mary said. And that's the YouTube link. I'll have to watch that at some point. What does that lead to? What song is that? Because it's going to go away. I don't want to actually watch it right now. We're going to pause that. Hey, we're going to pause it. Oh, it's actually called If I Had a Hammer? I don't think I've ever seen that or heard that song. Or maybe I have and I just don't know it. I don't recognize it from its title. Alright, so we are back. Yeah, I don't recognize that song from its title. If I Had a Hammer? So I don't. Maybe I've heard it, maybe I haven't. I'm not very good with like titles and artists. I've never been good with that. I don't know why. All right, let's do another heat. yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely. We'll finish it off today. Like I said, whatever we don't finish today is going to be ground off, so that we can start um, our acts on Monday. I honestly feel like it's probably going to be the better deal is going to actually be to grind it off, because if I stretch it too far, or if I squish it too far, then we're going to get a lot more width than we want. So losing steel is probably better at this point than moving steel. But we'll make it work. Now that's salt and pepper. You gotta push it real good. See, that one I know. You know it. I do. This time. But I don't think that was that long before I was born, and if I was alive then, I listened to, because that was on the commercials for like the the CD collections and stuff. There, back in the 90s, there used to be this like compilation like albums that they would put out on as seen on TV, and it was like now and then a number, be like now 1, now 5, now 20 million, and I swear that song was on one of those. Yeah, I remember. And then after a while, they did the Kids Bop version of it, where it was like a compilation CD, but they like changed all the lyrics to like kid-friendly stuff. It was really weird, and they still do those. They still do the Kids Bop ones. I just find it funny because sometimes they'll add like because they always add the popular songs, like the Hot 100 list. And sometimes those songs just aren't safe for work to begin with. And so they have to like completely butcher the lyrics in order to make them kid friendly. And some of them are really funny. Like some of the replacements. So, yeah. Yeah, there's some questionable choices made for the song picks. Yeah, yeah. I can think of a few, but I'm not going to name them. Wasn't that like Let's Talk About? Yes. That one was one. Yeah, there was yeah, there was several of them that even the title was not safe for work. Oh no, that was on the same album, but Push It was on another song. Yeah. Yes, you're right, Mahalo. Not everything has to be a kid song. It's like, why did you pick this song? I mean, there are other songs that you could modify a little bit. Maybe they're a little bit lower in the Hot 100, but it would be a better pick. All right, let's do another heat. Mahalo, let us please not talk about kid songs. I mean, Baby Shark still haunts me. Yes, Baby Shark. So, yeah, that actually reminds me of, like, there is a specific Madonna song that a church choir sang in church, and it became a viral TikTok song. I'm not going to say what song it is, but I will say that you should probably not sing Madonna in church. Yeah. Meh, she was such a good girl. Yes, definitely. So, Bluesy, do you know kids that played Baby Shark all the time, or how did that haunt you? Yeah. I'll never forget. We play the butler and I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and RP and stuff. And the butler likes to play bards, and so they will like take pop songs and kind of in universify them. And sometimes they just pick random songs, and Baby Shark was one of the songs that they picked for their bard to play for a combat scene once. It was kind of funny, actually. It was for a water spell. But yeah. It caused a few problems with the rest of the people in that session. But it was alright in the end. Baby sharks are fine, but what does the fox say, right? I used to have neighbors about 600 yards away, and they were very young back in the day, and they were totally into Baby Shark. Yes. Yeah. Man, if I'd only, gotten into kids YouTube, right? That's where all the money is. Yes. What does the fox say? And then, like, right after that, they also, there was another song by a different artist, and it was like Selfie. That was a weird time in internet history. But I mean, at least the Chainsmokers, they released a Selfie, and then they actually got popular after that. So, you know, they did something right. Ring a ding ding a dang, ding a ding, and wompy 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 yay. At least it wasn't Phenomena. But Phenomena is a great song. That is a great song, you know. That's one of the songs that gets other songs out of my head, you know. When I complain to the butler about having a song stick in my head, they'll start singing either the Fraggle Rock theme song or Phenomena. And then those get stuck in my head as earworms. But yeah, I wish I had those songs when I was in college before I met the butler, because for a long time I got the song I like to eat eeples and baninis stuck in my head for like years. It was awful. No, not Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock is awesome. Yes, Fraggle Rock. Yes, Fraggle Rock. I didn't actually watch Fraggle Rock until I was an adult, though. I did not have the channel to watch it for my local television air or station. All right, so we're pretty good on the shape. So I think the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to try and put in that teardrop shape. So I have to figure out how I want to go about doing that. I think I want to actually flip it over this direction. Day-o, day-o, daylight comes and we want to go home. That's another song that oftentimes gets stuck in people's heads, though, I think. All right, I am out of water, so I'm going to go and fill up another container, and I will be right back. I apologize. All right, I'm back. Harry Belafonte was fantastic. That was scary. What's scary? Is it because I closed the door and it was a loud noise? I apologize if that's the case. Yeah, that was the door. I went to go and get oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to close it that loud. That's just the big door. So I went to get another water, and when I closed the big door, oh, it doesn't? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try to keep that in mind next time. I will be a little bit more careful when I close the big door. Or I'll at least warn you guys. Yeah, I gotta stay hydrated. Ray has built-in jump scares. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought that it would go under the noise cancellation. Chuck Berry, huh? Or maybe Ray Stevens? I mean, what about Weird Al Yankovic? He's very good for parody songs. The Butler has an entire station, like Pandora station. We still use Pandora, which makes us really, really old, but you know, we still use it. So, the Butler has a Weird Al Yankovic station, so it pulls all of the parody songs. And it's not my favorite, but occasionally we'll listen to it in the car. Weird Al does parodies. Chuck Berry and Ray Stevens make originals. Eat it. If it gets cold, reheat it. Yes. So that station actually pulls up a bunch of like singing comedians as well. So I don't know if I don't know any specifically, but I've probably heard a few here and there. Alright. So I think, let's see. Ray Stevens, The Streak, You Must Know It. Maybe? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really good with like titles and artists. So I may know it and not know that I know it. Alright. So I gotta come up with how I want to go about creating the teardrop shape. We've got what I want for the tapering down. So now we just need to shape the profile a little bit. So like I said, the majority of this could be done on the grinder. But like I said, I want to see about reducing the amount of work I need to do. Don't look, Ethel, but it was too late. I don't know that I recognize that. I don't know that I recognize that. I apologize. All right, so it's gonna be. I think we're. I think we're gonna go on the face of the anvil, at least at first. I think we're gonna go on the face of the anvil. I think I moved to the big camera. I apologize if that's the case. I don't want to make you guys ill. Boogity boogity, there he goes, boogity boogity, and he ain't got no, or no, he ain't wearing no clothes. Yeah, I definitely don't think I've heard that one. Of course, it's from a few years before most people's birth here, 1974. Yeah, I don't think I've heard that one. You'll have to give me an entire playlist, and I'll have to like listen to them all someday. Another YouTube. I'm gonna have to go to like, what is it? It's Streamlabs, so I can take a look at those links. Streamlabs will save all of the conversation so I can review it. It goes away off of my Twitch too quickly. All right, we're gonna see if we can manage this. I don't know if we can or not. It might just be like a bouncy mess where I just drop our piece of steel, but I'm gonna do my best. Going a little better. All right, let's heat this back up. We're not getting much movement. We're getting a little bit of smoothing out of the edges from where I was able to hammer that. So there's a lot of divots and stuff, and we've taken those out, but we haven't gotten much movement as far as that teardrop shape. So we'll see how well this goes. I think I'm gonna probably end up doing a lot of grinding because we're getting pretty late in the stream. So yeah, we'll probably get a lot of grinding. But that's all right. That's all right. I can manage it. All right, so we've got an ad starting in about 3 minutes. And by the time that's over with, we can probably do our next heat. I'll see what I can do to try and get at least a little bit of a start of the point for that teardrop shape. It's getting really humid out. So when we first started streaming, it was raining pretty hard. And there is like barely a cloud in the sky right now. And so all of that like moisture from the rain is being burned off and evaporating into the air. And so it's getting really muggy. That is the worst. The rain was supposed to cool it down, not make it worse. But that's what it does, right? In the summer, so we've got about a half an hour left in the stream. So we'll have plenty of heats left, probably like 4 or 5 more heats. Probably won't make a terribly large amount of progress on making this shape. I'm going to do my best, but we probably will have a lot of grinding left to do. But yeah, good sweet corn growing weather. Yeah. The sweet corn sweat. Sweet corn makes the weather humid. So, yeah. Except my sweet corn got eaten by like a deer or something. So, when I'm a big city slicker, I know nothing about farming, and I'll get into the story when the ad is over. So yeah. So we've got ad break going, and yeah, my brain's a bit, but we're doing all right. We're making some progress. Slow going progress. It's not like not like Wednesday. On Wednesday, I feel like we got a lot of visual progress. I think today we're kind of finishing off stuff, but it's not a lot of extra work. Or I guess it's not a lot of visual work. It's more shaping and taking out some like curves and some weird angles and things. So I'm going to let that soak just a little bit longer. So I'm a pretty big city slicker, and I don't know a lot about gardening or planting things. And so this spring, I tried to plant a garden. And so we did peppers, we did tomatoes, we did garlic, onions, sweet corn, and scallions. And I didn't realize that I needed to put down like ground covering to keep the weeds away. And so at least until far too late. And so within a couple of weeks, we had all kinds of like grass regrowing in the spot that I had put the garden. And so at this point, we just let it grow because we didn't want to like mow it over or anything, and there was just too much there to like pull out of the ground. So we're getting to this point now where we have lost the vegetables, and the ones that we hadn't lost, like the corn was pretty darn tall. It has gotten eaten by like deer. There's like a colony of deer that kind of roams the neighborhood. So I think we're going to mow it all down and try again next year. But I've learned quite a bit. I have learned quite a bit about gardening. Propane torch works for weed killer with no chemicals. Honestly, I don't know. Like, it definitely is, right? It definitely is a good weed killer. Because, I mean, I do own a brush burner, but I modified it so that I could use it as a 55-gallon barrel burner for a kiln. And I got it hot enough that we were able to melt bronze in it. So I don't know that my brush burner would be good for weeds. I think that it would be rather imprecise. So I don't know. I do have the little one, so that might work. Maybe if I go in between where the plants would be with the brush burner and then got a little bit more precise with the plumber's torch, maybe? I don't know. Corwin said that I should mow it all down this year and then turn it into compost. And I think that's a pretty good idea. I think that'll make it a lot easier for planting next year. But yeah, I don't know. I get really excited when I have the brush burner, so I'm just like all over the place. I don't think I should be trusted to get rid of the weeds between the plants. Maybe the butler, but definitely not me. Just burn it. It will turn into compost without the extra step. I guess I could, you know, and then it would turn into, like just, I mean, isn't that like when you have a prairie, they burn it and that does turn it into compost and stuff, yeah. I'm picturing Animal the Muppet with a flamethrower and suddenly frightened, right? I mean, I don't know that I'm like that bad, but you know, I'm a little, I get excited. I get way too excited. I like fire, guys. I don't know if you know this about me. I like fire. And I like metal. So yeah, I don't know. I think burning the garden, or at least the area that we want to put the garden in, might actually help us quite a bit. Last spring, we actually rented a tiller, but the tiller kept getting clogged up because we still had grass there. It was just like a fresh patch that we were trying to till like from scratch. I had a hunch, right? So yeah, that's actually a really good idea, is just burning it. So I will have to get the butler to burn it just so that we get a little bit more control. That way, you know, I can sit there with the hose and make sure that it only goes where we need it to go. But then the butler will be a little bit more controlled with where, you know, we start the fires. Burn things carefully, please. Well, the last thing I want to do is set, you know, the shop or my house on fire, you know. That's why I would give up the control over the fire to someone who I could trust a little bit easier. Like this, I can trust myself with this, right? It's controlled fire. But that, I don't know. I like watching fire, you know? We didn't start the fire, it was always burning. Yes, exactly. Famous last words. Man, the hose will catch it, right? Man, the hose. All right, I will offer the suggestion to the butler, and the butler can decide whether they want to risk it or not. I've heard that song, but I don't know the rest of the lyrics to it, so I can't really tell or show you that I know that song. But yeah. It is one of the songs that always came up when we were, or when I worked at the jewelry store, because we listened to the oldies station at the jewelry store. The oldies station. There was some good music on the oldies station. You know, my favorites were always like Queen and David Bowie, and you know. Sometimes they play the Beatles. We're getting a little bit of movement there. You can kind of tell a little bit. Not much, but some. Hey Jack, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Apparently I accidentally unfollowed at some point. Oops. I always loved Billy Joel. Now the oldie station is Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Boyz II Men, and Snoop Dogg. It wasn't when I was listening to it, but these days I would not be surprised at all. The amount of songs that I used to listen to in high school that have made their way into the grocery store playlist is a bit unnerving, you know? Especially the ones that were not safe for work, right? They still play in the grocery store, and I feel like the grocery store is supposed to be a place where, like, you know, they play unobjectionable oldies. But I mean, all of like the oldies that I listened to, a lot of them were also not safe for work, and they went over my head back then, and you know, listening to them now, I get it. Yeah, it made me sad when I heard Guns N' Roses on the oldies channel. The oldies that we know as kids are old as 90s music now. Yeah, yeah, that is very true. But yeah, the other day I heard Wonderwall in the grocery store, and I was like, really? But yeah, like, we are farther away from the 90s now than like, or like the early 90s than the 90s were from like the 70s. So, you know. I did actually get to hear some of the 70s music though, because like my dad played in a band in the 70s, and so he took up music again later on in life, and so I get to hear some of the songs that he used to play. When you hear adult Michael Jackson on the oldies station, you're old. I suppose that's true. Thank you so much, Mario Spiritual, for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. When I was born, World War II was only over for 35 years. I'm much older than that now. Yeah. Purple People Eater. I know Purple People Eater because that song was on the playlist that we used to listen to for Halloween as a kid. Back to the Future happened today. Doc and Marty would be going back to 1996. Oh gosh. That's sad to hear. That's very sad to hear. Let's do another eat. That will make me less sad. All right, we're getting there. I think a lot of this is going to end up being ground and ended up on the floor in the cold shop, to be honest. Yes, and the future was some years ago already. Cubs winning the World Series was a year late. Yep. That is true. I remember like watching Back to the Future and then talking about, you know, the future and then being there for it. I'm still waiting on their hoverboards. I can't believe that they call those like one-wheel boards hoverboards. That's not hovering. It's like a one-wheel. All right. So I think I'm going to do 2 more heats and then we'll raid off and I will grind the rest of this. Also, no flying cars. There are actually like designs for flying cars out there. I don't know if they actually have one that has reached liftoff though. They're called planes. That's true, like little Cessnas. There are 3 working models. Are there? See, I thought that they were trying to use like drone technology, like the quadcopter stuff. And they use faxes in the future. Accurate for Germany still, but for not for anywhere else. Yeah, I thought that there were a few models of flying cars that were, you know, like exhibition type style things. I don't think that there's any like that are, you know, purchasable. But unless you count drones, I mean, you can buy little drones, like camera drones and stuff. So yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to do 2 more heats and then we'll raid off because we're getting pretty late. I'm going to grind the rest of the piece, and I think this is probably where we're going to get the size that we need and the shape. And I think it'll be pretty good. So let's do one of those heats. I am wet and sweating. We're getting some shape in there. I think we're gonna have to, it is higher on that side than that side though, so we're definitely gonna need to do a lot of grinding there. So I think what I'm gonna do for our last heat is address the sharp corners on this end. That is the fatter end, but I think I need to, or I wanna address that a little bit. Before we go. We're gonna do one more heat. Exactly, Mahalo. One more heat. They were not great cars, nor great planes, but they did do it. There were some purchasable in the 50s, so you can still find them. Oh, okay. I would imagine, because I mean, in the 50s, they had like the technology of the future symposiums and stuff. Super hot. All right. A few more minutes of soaking that heat, and I will do our last heat. And that's good because we're starting to run out of water again. That's when I know it's time to end the stream, you know, when I'm starting to run out of liquids again. All right, let's do this. Last heat. Maybe we'll do it this way. I don't know. That's not going to help me. A little bit less sharp on those corners. We should be able to get a pretty decent round on the back end for that teardrop. And yeah. So that's it for now. We will get quite a bit more work done at the grinder this weekend, but we'll have a good drift ready to go. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I've had a blast. I hope you guys have had a blast. And I will see you guys on Monday. All right. So have a great weekend. think we are going to raid to Miramax. Thank you guys for joining me on this stream, man. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Monday. Bye, guys.